So, good day. I wanted to talk about the fact that people keep calling Yeshua and Mary Magdalene twin flames because I guess people want to relate to them, and I understand that. But it's important to understand that these were highly evolved souls, ancient starseed souls, probably the closest to source we'll ever understand, at least from this vantage point, and that they did not come in as twin flames at all. They came in as, I'm going to use the word twin rays so you understand. I just did a video on this, but flames, twin flames mean you're burning karma. That's why you've got runner chaser. That's why you've got all kinds of samskaras, hauntings, denial, self-sabotage, and loopings, and so forth. So definitely that was not their issue. In fact, they didn't have those issues at all. They were highly evolved, highly spiritually trained, and there's a lot of weird things in the New Age community. Again, once again, taking on and calling them twin flames. There are tons of videos on that, and it's so ridiculous. What does flame mean? It means fire. What does fire do? It burns. What does it do for twin flames? It burns karma. So rays, what is rays? Rays of light. They were of the light. And they lowered their frequency as much as they could to incarnate in these bodies. They were equal from the day they were born. The fact that we don't have the information about her birth and the three wise men that knew of his birth from the star, the angels heralding his birth, all of that is written. And let me remind you, as a person who recognizes my incarnation as a masculine and feminine, these were misogynistic men who wrote and maintained the story. I've talked about the Cathars at length, who actually saw women as equals to preach the word of God in the 12th, 13th century, 11th century, thereabouts, and how they were slaughtered by the Pope of Rome. Everyone. Damn near every child, woman, and adult, male, and every scripture, everything that probably would have shown us the actual writings or the actual dictations of Mary Magdalena were burnt by that Pope. And probably, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of these writings have, for some reason, and I can't imagine why, but are in the Vatican Library, buried. But the rays, the concept of twin rays is highly evolved souls that come here. They've paid their dues. They meet usually, and this is known, they usually have sex within like 48 hours to 72 hours of meeting each other. And they're usually not wired to do that. They're not loose in that way. And it shocks them. But it's an immediate need to activate the root chakra and to start activating, a recollection of their bonds, and also an activation of why they met in the first place, which is to be of service to sentient beings. And I'm not going to say to humanity, because they are a service to, sure, humanity, but throughout the galaxies, okay? Their power reverberates. So they're rays, technically. But as you probably know, if you're following me, you probably know that I've been stepping away from the twin flame debacle, the fuckery that has happened with the twin flame terminology, because it has been bastardized. It has been monetized to such a level. And I've talked about it again and again. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but suffice it to say, what I would say they are, with the greatest honor, is that they are eternal divine consorts. And so that's the appropriate way to refer to them, eternal divine consorts. And it's similar to Shakti and Shiva. It's similar to Isis, Osiris. It's similar to Krishna, Radha. You get the picture. They're on that level, and they're not coming back. And no, you did not incarnate as Mary Magdalene. And no, you did not incarnate as Yeshua. That's the other weird psychosis going on in the New Age community, which is very, what's the word I would say? I want to be polite because I know people like that are suffering for real. There's psychosis going on left and right. And unfortunately, people are taking advantage of that, what would I say? They're just people taking advantage of that. I had a really wonderful conversation. I'm not going to say who, but he's a well-known author in the spiritual community. He's really a cool guy. And he went through a divorce with a very well-known, I'll just say, person who is well-known on Gaia.com. I'll leave it there. And they had a pretty interesting divorce. And suffice it to say, it was not great. But what he did say, because I was talking to him about how disappointed I was with Gaia.com. Very disappointed. And you have to understand, I have had a membership with Gaia.com since they fucking opened their doors for business. Okay? Kind of similar to me making my first order. I was looking at my account from, it was when I first ordered from Amazon, it was in the 1990s. That should tell you something. Okay? So I get very disappointed when I support a business that actually betrays people like us, who made them become a business that was extremely successful to the tune of billions of dollars per year. And Gaia.com has not made any stance, none, on, nor have they allowed their hosts to make any comments about what's been happening around the world with ice cubes, with Gaza, and now with the West Bank, and most recently for the system of oppression going on against the Palestinian people. And we're looking at the Parliament of Israel, who celebrated with sweet cakes that now they're allowed to commit executions against their kangaroo courts. Here's why I'm disappointed. Because many of the content creators that started supporting what we had to, at those days, call the watermelon babies. I don't know if you remember that, but back in 2023 and 2024, you could not say Gaza and you could not say Palestinians. You had to say watermelon babies and watermelon. That was the code word. To the point where one of my friends who lives in London, some of them in support, like silently supporting the watermelon babies, they had little watermelon pens, and that was considered, and they were told to remove those pens because it was considered anti-you-know-what. So in the spiritual community, and we know now in the New Age community of content creators and so forth, that many of them are on the payroll to say nothing or to make comments. Today, my son came to me and told me there was a very famous spiritualist with the little jungle behind him, because, he's kumbaya, saying that the Palestinian kids deserved what had happened to them because they had karma and that they were living their karma. Yeah. And thank God, because many of you as Americans are awake. Thank God many of you across the world are awake and you're not fucking drinking the Kool-Aid anymore. As he was doing this live, they were saying, dude, are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to unfollow you. That's an unfollow. Like, fuck off. Like, are you fucking for real? We have been, me and Andromeda Flame have been telling you for about a year now that people are on the payroll in the spiritual community. When you go to the country is not real, they will have yoga retreats and they will do a kumbaya circle of love while people are fucking starving. I'm not sure what's happened to the New Age community, but I know that the money is sweet. $7,000 per post. If you're happy, have you ever seen my posts? Like, I could post a thing a day, right? Post something, a thing a day for like 54 seconds or 2 minutes or 3 minutes on the payroll. Just pull out your calculator. $7,000 per post. Bitch, I'd be posting 3-4 times a day. I'd be a millionaire by the time the year ended. I'd be a millionaire. Does that make sense? So the level of discernment. So I was talking to him. So let me go back to the original point. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. That's me today. And he said, yeah, and she went to Gaza. I went, wait, hang on. She went to Gaza? He goes, yeah. She said, fucking awful. Awful. I said, has she ever done it or said anything publicly? No, nothing. And she never will. Because she has got her money tree and she's not going to fucking pour poison into her money tree. Why? Well, because it will ruin her career. But may I say, that she is an elder as I am. I'm an elder, believe it or not. I'm much younger than her. But when you're closer to God, meaning you're closer to meeting your own soul's infinite expansive truth and God and whatever else, the guides, your troops, your soulmate tribes, whatever, right? You start realizing that you better make peace with your shit, and you better walk in your integrity, your light. And you better say and speak with the truth as much as you can, repair damages you've made. Because your soul is more important than a fucking bankrolled bank account with $500,000 or $1.5 million per year, whatever the fuck you're clocking. And this is where we're at. And where are we at when you have Teal Swan talking to someone in an interview, telling people about MK Ultra and the big ketamine? I'll say it that way. You got it. Hopefully you got it. And how she was basically manipulated, her brain wiped clean and reset to their own devices to see where they could take her. And at the age of 15, watch her interview. She ran away and somehow survived what had happened to some level. Some people will say she's lying about that past. But if you watch her interview, you can't, you can't lie about shit like that. Not like that. And it's almost like she's trying to share the trauma without taking it seriously, self-deprecating almost. It's hard to talk about what happened to your life. If you've gone through anything like that, if you've ever been abused in any way, it is almost, I don't know how to put it. As you say and you speak your story of your trauma, it shakes you up inside because you're witnessing it from the point of view of an adult. You're the adult, watching what happened to you as a child. And you're trying to process these multiple things of witnessing it, being repulsed by it, being angry by it, being sad by it, feeling damaged by it, feeling dirty by it, and trying to swallow it all at once. Trying to make peace with it as you're telling the story, knowing that you have to tell the story for yourself and for the future and for other people not to think that what happened to them was their fault. You can't make that shit up. There are better things to make up. Easier things to make up. I believe her, and I don't like her, and I believe her. I've never liked her. Speaking of Teal Swan, I've never liked her, but that's okay. And so, what's happening in the spiritual community, where we are being hijacked once again, and we are being gaslit, manipulated, and so you will get nectar. This is the game. Well, what do drug dealers do? They fucking give you the shit for free. Once you're hooked, they got you. What do when you're going to create a cult? You basically give nectar, and then you're in, you trust, and then you start giving all your powers to an individual, the cult leader, and suddenly, before you know it, you're gaslighting yourself. You're confused. You're not sure because you've put all your trust in an individual human being. That's why spirituality has to be a round table. There's no head of the table. There can't be. If you have a round table with people of integrity and honor who actually care more about their souls than manipulating you and making a massive amount of money off you, you know what I'm saying? Then you're good to go. But if you have people who literally bank their fucking entire mortgage on you leaning against, you as the quote unquote healer, then you're not doing the right thing. That's not faking. That's not saying that I'm so great. It's what I see with really good healers. Good healers have to pay their bills, just like bad, toxic healers. But good healers, if you come to them and say, should I do X, Y, and Z with you? a good healer with integrity will say, no, you've already done it last month. No, give it 6 months. Like, for example, I had a client who wanted to do an Akashic reading. Again, I go, how long was it before we, I think it was like a while before we did it, but we're not doing this every fucking month. That's not how it works. You need to integrate. Just like shamans. I knew of a guy who was seeing a shaman to do the grandmother every fucking 30 days. That's not healthy for the client. And it's greedy as fuck. And if you do it too much and you don't integrate the medicine, you're going to blow your fucking brains out, basically. You're going to mess yourself up. So I think what's happening is that people with the COVID lockdown, right? There were people of integrity that lost their channels. I know you know who I'm talking about. Basically, David Icke, Sasha Stone, and a lot of other people. A lot of people lost their channel. In 2023, in October of that year, when the shit went down, people who had amassed 100, 2, 3, 4, 500,000 people or more stepped into the limelight and said by November, they were saying, this is wrong. This is wrong. We're going too far. This is not okay. We're breaking fucking human rights laws. Okay? By 2024, these people's channels had been ripped out of their hands from YouTube, Instagram, shutdowns on Facebook, and of course TikTok. And you know this. I mean, you fucking know this. And yet the spiritualists all had an answer. And the one that, I knew they were saying this, that, it's karma. It's called karma. That's what's happening to these people. What's happening to the Sudan, I guess, is karma. Apartheid is karma. Slavery is karma. I guess you could say that about the feminine sex. The oppression of women for over 3,000 years. I guess it's our karma. There are religions that actually think that to be a woman is a punishment. Can you imagine the balls? That I'm a woman right now because I fucked up as a man, so I came back as a woman. There are multiple religions. From the Krishna religion, which again was written, and I love that religion, by the way. But that's one of the premise. From the Catholic Church to Judaism, to Muslim religions and different factions, that we are less than. So you can see my problem here. When I hear someone in the spiritual community coming up with the oldest template of toxicity, blaming the victim. Blaming the victim. People lost their fucking careers, they lost book deals and so on when they stood up for the insanity. And no one was picking sides. No one was saying Sudan is less important than Gaza. No one was saying, believe me, if you've ever listened to any lives that many of us have done, we always talked about all of it. Congo, the cobalt that is needed in our phones, when you and I both know there's probably most likely better technology than cobalt. And yet the average kid, skinny, a 12-year-old that looks like a 6-year-old because of malnutrition, will never make it to 12 or 13. They work 7 days a week in mud. They're whipped. They're abused. If we're not using these phones for fucking doing something for human rights, then what are we here for? Because it's not for me to fucking find out what my best favorite red lipstick is for the holidays. I'll tell you that. If a child is going to die for me to speak to you, let it be all of us for us to be human rights activists, advocates, spiritualists who believe in human rights. Human rights. I came across something very interesting that had me crying. And I'm going to cry again. This is from my divine consort. He wrote, what are we called? The human race. What does that mean? It means a whole race of people who act humane. Really? he says, I guess that leaves us out. He wrote that before he could no longer write. Soon after that, he would not be able to hold a pen. What are we doing? Why are we going to these retreats? Why aren't we actually asking people what their stance is on what's happening? Why aren't we demanding them to declare a stand? Every fucking person, from Billy Carson, and you know I've read from them, to Regina Meredith, to Matthias De Stefano, and the list goes on, have not made a public statement about what's going on in specifics. You know who I heard speaking actually about the fucking wars and the inhumanity that's going on? Freddie Silver actually was being interviewed, talking about what's going on the planet is so horrific. And he kept mentioning that again and again. Not picking any country, mind you, but at least making a stand, acknowledging the horror that we're seeing, and saying that there's a reason that we are going from the darkest point, and that there's things that many of us are bringing back on the planet, old, ancient wisdom, not new age bullshit, ancient wisdoms of old, lost ways that our ancestors used through sound frequency, through energy shifting, through creating portals and temples made of as simply as carving into the side of a mountain and creating acoustic resonance and imbuing these spaces, these holy spaces, with such power that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years later, some of us would walk into the spaces carved on side of mountains or whatever, or rocks stacked upon each other, and we would feel a transformation. Like the tombs in the pyramids, for example. He is the only one that's actually making a stand. I saw Matthias De Stefano make a comment on Gaza, and he was so attacked, he shut up. He made one comment on an interview, and he had to fucking eat his words. So what's happening? And my question, all of us, is that I understand that we all need to make a living and we all need to pay our bills. I get that. But at some point, especially if you're successful and you're making $500,000, $1 million or more per year on your shit, how much fucking money do you need to make before you make a stand? Because if people like that with that kind of platform would have done that, say, earlier this year, it would have catapulted everything. If people made a statement politically back in November or even September, maybe people wouldn't have voted for the thing that we now have in the White House, calling women piggy and stupid and fat. Again, here we go with women being attacked. We are a society that is castrating ourselves and lobotomizing ourselves voluntarily because we're afraid of going against the machine. And what's really, really radicalized me at this point, going for broke, gloves off 2025, and further on in 2026, is that I'm seeing people who have a platform, a shitload of money. How much money do you need before you feel safe enough to say something? So that you can influence smaller spiritualists, smaller meaning you have 5 million people following you, and this smaller content creators of 130,000, 250,000, 1.5 million, whatever. At what point are you going to say, I have a nice stack in my bank accounts. I've got some crypto up the ass. I've got gold. I'm set. I'm good. So I'm going to step in. Because a lot of us stepped in without a fucking paddle. And we didn't have a pot to piss in. And we did it. And for many of us, it destroyed our businesses or put a stop. And that's not me. What is this called? What is this? There's a term that people like to use in the spiritual community again, which is so outrageous to me. It's a term that talks about you have such honor and you're like showing how honorable you are and how good you are. There's a term for it, which I detest. How are we going to know who's actually standing in honor and integrity for the best of all? I can tell who's getting $7,000 a post. Some of these people are outrageous at how obvious they are. Do you know when this guy, and God knows if he was in Costa Rica, the spiritualist that people had followed for years and years, when he had the gall to say that the little Palestinian kids had earned the karma to suffer like that, you know what some people said? Thank God. I guess you're on the payroll. I guess you're getting $7,000 per post. I guess you're going to get a fat check. You've basically just, solidified, a nice multi-million-dollar deal. You're either really spiritualist and you really actually care about your soul. You really, really care about your soul. And you care about what's going to happen when you die because, the old saying, you can't take it with you. I've seen 3 people die. It's true, you can't take it with you, but you know what you can take? Your guilt, your shame, your regret. That goes with you. It will follow you. And my question to all Christian Zionists, to all supposed Christians, to all Muslims, to all Jews, to all Buddhists, all of you, who are you fucking catering to? Why are you catering to fear? Why are you bending the knee? Because if you're afraid of death, right, you will live on your knees your entire life. Human rights is not a question in the spiritual context of anything we create. Human rights is actually everything we breathe when we meditate, when we chant, when we work on our chakras. The Vietnamese Buddhists showed us that during the Vietnam War. How they handled what was happening to their people and how they protested it. It was never violent. It was done in silence. I'll never forget that. As elders, it is our responsibility to put aside our fear of money and our fear of stability, because our duty is to the younger generation. And we have to make sure that we carve a place for them that is filled with love, with peace, thriving, abundance for all. Not a goose-stepping fascist system that will be here and take over the entire planet while we don't give a fuck, because I'm old now. I've lived my life. I'm out of here. It's really boomer of you. We have to. It is our responsibility. We didn't know the entire truth of how everything was run, but now we do. There's no excuse at all for that. Yeshua, aka Jesus Christ, whether you believe in him or not, whether you believe in Buddha or not, who walked away from what I actually coined it, billions of dollars in today's term, when he was Prince Siddhartha. Billions. He walked away from billions of dollars to become self-realized. We didn't know what was happening in the 60s and 70s. And to be fair to the boomers who were hippies, if you listen to any of the old gurus, and I mean the European ones, the American ones, who were playing with psilocybin and experimenting with altering realities and playing with their brains using different things, like Aldous Huxley, they instinctively were led and knew that something was off. And so they tried to do things with their brains, their consciousness, opening funnels to the great infinite, to understand why they were here. And we got the beginnings of these truths. Many of them continued and died young, like Terence McKenna. But you had Ram Dass. And they were gently trying to show us the way, opening the doors of our own consciousness and letting us know how we could become self-realized. But after a while, every human being gets tired, really, really tired. And so today, unlike these two men I've mentioned who had no access to the entire world with a phone, they had to do talks, books, TV interviews, radio, relying that maybe they were seeding something that would eventually grow. Today, spiritualists have no excuse to play the game, don't ask, don't tell. That's not okay. There isn't a spiritualist on any fucking platform on this planet that should be silent about what's going on. It is your duty. It is your responsibility. If you are going to influence people, you better influence them to wake up, self-realize, realize their incredible power to open their own third eye, to clean their chakras, and to start pushing and transmuting this machine until it collapses into the new earth. It's not about utopia. It's about not being enslaved, spiritually enslaved. I've mentioned the same things 60, 100 different ways, including people's fear of dying, because spiritualists have hijacked death to make you afraid of going to the light, making you afraid of death, which is exactly where they want you, because that will confirm you're going into the loosh, which David Icke speaks about eloquently. The way you go back into the loosh is fear. It's regret. It's when you do the life review and you realize that you could have done all these things, especially if you had a big platform. And even if you didn't, when you do the life review, they will show you your point of view and every other point of view and all the crossroad moments you had and how you had opportunities to change the fucking planet by being bold, by giving a fuck about other people besides yourself. And that you could have said something, created something to change everything. But you didn't do a fucking thing. Because you wanted, what do they call it? Your bag, your money bag. You wanted your bag. And you wanted more money. And that will bring you right back. You will try to repair what you did. Yeshua, aka Jesus Christ, could have actually had a lot of money. All he had to do was play the game. Shut the fuck up. When he went to India to meet with the Brahmins, the caste system of the Kshatriyas, the warrior class, and the Brahmins, the priest class, and he saw the, third and fourth class, the caste system, the untouchable. He was studying the Vedas. I read about it, obviously, before, but I'm going to repeat to you. And they loved him until they found out that he was teaching the untouchables, the lower caste, about the Vedic system of how to achieve samadhi. They didn't want him to do that. In fact, he had to flee for his life because they were out to annihilate him, take his life. But he didn't have to do that. He could have lived in luxury, a guest in some of the most incredible palaces in India. And he fled to Tibet. He never played it safe. Never. So I'm not pointing any one religion. I'm pointing all religions. I'm pointing to our spiritual failure in the New Age community, in the spiritual community that wants to play it safe and then play games like, well, it's their karma. That's what's happening. Here, I'll tell you what's happening. I'm actually going to tell you what's happening. People will incarnate, souls will incarnate into such situations that are impossible. They are actually submitting themselves, hoping, giving people like us a chance to do right by them. Be it helping a blind person cross the street, be it helping a girl getting her ass beat by her boyfriend on the street, be it seeing someone abuse a dog, be it protesting against an unjust war or an unjust apartheid or anything unjust. We are given a choice. If you read any holy books of intelligence, they will tell you that the paraplegic is an advanced soul. They actually will tell you in the books written by Michael Newton, PhD, by the way, who was an atheist, formerly an atheist. He writes about people, souls, multidimensional souls, who actually jockey for a position to be born blind, to be born nonverbal, to be born paralyzed. Because not only do they burn karma, but they also do it to be in service to those who are surrounding them. It's a choice. When we are coming across something that makes us uncomfortable, be it a neurologically different, challenged person, we are being asked to become fucking humane, kind, patient, because that soul chose that vessel that you might call broken, that they wanted to give you the opportunity to become better by stepping up and giving a fuck. Not just about yourself, but giving a fuck. That's why spiritualists who say don't give any food or money or help to homeless people, they're out there, you know. They'll tell you, oh no, that's their karma. Yeah, don't do that. You'll be karmically entangled. How? Poverty is not a disease. It's not leprosy, and yet Jesus touched lepers, walked among them. It was what happened with AIDS victims. When Louise Hay ran the Hay ride to gay men who were now the untouchables, no one was stepping up. How in the fuck did a white, straight woman get involved in becoming advocate for gay males who had nowhere to go, who couldn't talk about being afraid of dying, who couldn't talk about the shame of having this disease, who couldn't talk about the regret of how they caught it, some of them knowing how, some of them not knowing. And people like Louise Hay, Liz Taylor with Rock Hudson, and Princess Diana, who I believe touched in England, they were in shock. Oh my God, you're touching a person with AIDS. Oh my God. Those were incredibly courageous souls that decided that they would come in and be treated like they were nothing. And we had examples of people stepping up to say, you are valid, and I will not only touch you, I will sit by you, and I will let you cry and tell me your story. I will hold sacred space for you. Princess Diana didn't have to do that. Louise Hay didn't have to do that. She was rocking and rolling, publishing Deepak Chopra and other great writers I can't think of off the top of my head today. She didn't have to do that. But she did. She was an extraordinary woman. And she was a light and a template of what we should be doing. Any spiritualist, any religious leader that doesn't stand on the right side of human rights, fuck history, human rights, is a charlatan and is manipulating a whole bunch of people for money. I personally am probably going to, I'm going to be honest with you, after almost 20 years, more than that actually, of having Gaia.com, I'm going to actually shut it down. Because you need to teach me, Gaia.com, how the fuck what's happening on this planet can be rectified spiritually. Show me the power the CIA, the KGB, and all these other governments have mastered. Show it to me. Give me the best teachers. Talk about it with me. Teach me and others like me how to fucking move the machine off the cliff so that we can actually walk into the light of 5D consciousness. Don't keep telling me the same shit with old fucking dusty teachers, with the same old fucking story, with the same old, how do we manifest? My son, you know, when there was a particular, I'm not even going to say her name, on Gaia, how do you manifest? This is how you manifest. My son said, why doesn't she tell the people in Gaza how to manifest themselves out of that fucking hellhole? How do they fucking do it when they're not even allowed to leave? People don't like me on this app. Not at all. Not at all. You sound angry. Yeah. And you sound ignorant. You sound like you don't give a fuck about anything else but your comfort zone, your lipstick, your mala beads, your yoga class, and, your kundalini's rising. The kundalini rising, the third eye opening, the crown chakra activation means nothing unless you do something with it of might. If you do it just because it's cool, then what are we doing here? What are you doing here? You just want the outfit, the bindi, around, between your eyebrows and some little henna on your hands, and you're now cool. You're going to go to Costa Rica and do some grandmother medicine. Is that it? Is that all we're doing here? Or are we going to fucking rewrite the template out of 3D, break fucking soul contracts of looshing out of 3D into 5D? I don't need you to teach me how to manifest, lady, on Gaia.com. I need you to tell me how do we crack the code out of this fucking bullshit so we can be fucking free once and for all. In a planet, in the most beautiful planet of all planets. This planet's beautiful. What makes me sad, it breaks my heart when I hear people who see these videos and say, I hate this place. I hate this world. You don't hate this world. You don't hate this place. You hate the people running it to the fucking ground. To the fucking ground. So you people in Gaia.com and all you spiritualists, Matias De Stefano, how much money do you need? How much? Greg Braden, tell me how to fucking get us out of here. Billy Carson, start telling me about how much money I can make. Tell me how I can live in a planet where no one is going to be harmed by governments. And species driven to extinction where we've got helicopters shooting, literally bears and wolves from the sky. It all matters. It's all connecting. Brutality, barbarism, cruelty, torturing animals, people. It's all one fucking shit show. Tell me, how do I rewire my brain so I'm not afraid of the unknown? How do I open my third eye to such a power, a laser power, that I can actually trigger people to wake up and they wake other people up, and before we know it, we're not in the same fucking realm. We're not a frequency match to these billionaires. These billionaires that hoard like bitches in fucking trailer parks. We're with the right people, the right energy. I visualize it all the time. I use Native Americans as my template. I remember what it was like. Maybe that's why I'm losing my fucking patience. I remember what it was like before we had these fucking brutal emperors, conquerors. Now today call them billionaires. These weak-jawed, weak-chinned, weak men and women. These whores of Babylon. These people that just wanted power, and all they wanted to do was to subjugate and torture and harm the most vulnerable and the purest of soul. When I read that the Cathars were hunted down like dogs by the Pope of Rome, in his own admission, you've heard me say it before, his own admission, he said, yes, I know the Cathars are pure people. They are good people. But what they're teaching, I don't want. It will assert our power as the Holy Church of God. And so, in the name of God, we will slaughter all of them. So my point to you, what is my point? My point to you is, in every 100 years, we wash and repeat. The one thing that makes a difference is that unlike all the other 100 years you and I have lived on this planet, this is the first time we actually get to see the truth in real time, in past times, and we get to actually converse with each other, and we get to actually compare, and we get to actually repeat what we see to each other from different points of views, and we're realizing that this is it. This is all the knowledge we need in terms of what is not working. But now what we do need, if a spiritualist to say, this is bad, this is not acceptable, this is not karma, these people never deserved it. Do you understand? Homeless people don't deserve to be homeless. Veterans, war veterans do not deserve to be homeless. Kids in the Congo don't deserve to live out their life carrying cobalt on their shoulders in the rain or shine, being beaten, barely eating, and not making it to the age of 12 or 13. None of them do. No one deserves that. We still have slavery in the world. Did you know that? They still sell people. In Niger, they still sell people. It's generational slavery. So my point to you is that you need to demand more from your spiritual fucking advisors and your teachers, man. And what I do like about the hippies during the Vietnam War, the teachers that were out there, like Terence McKenna, he was talking about the Vietnam War. He wasn't just talking about philosophy and spirituality and kumbaya. He was talking about the brutality of what was going on, as was Ram Dass. All of these guys had balls, and they were fucking in the mics, yelling and screaming and protesting and saying some things. But they did not have social media. Because I guarantee you if they had, because a lot of you are seeing them when they were young. You're seeing old videos when they were young. If they had had that kind of fucking power, we wouldn't be talking about the same shit today. It would have been over a long time ago. So now let's use this technology for something more than fucking using old templates of shaming victims, of acting as if we're so incredibly good. Oh, I want to protect my energy. I just want only good vibes. I want only good vibes. You'll be here for fucking another 500 years with that bullshit. You will come back again and again because you didn't actually use everything we have. We've never had so many tools, so many opportunities to do the right thing. Never, not ever in human history. Not like this. Freddie Silva I'm totally enamored with him because, and I have such great respect because of what he said about what's going on the planet. He kept saying it again and again, and he's talking about portals, divine blueprint spaces, crop circles, the energies of the planet, the energies of us, and our ability, and remembering what we could do. We could literally, through thought, through sound, through voice resonance, could lift monoliths alone, together. We did this. There was a time when we could do this. And we lost the skill. One of my favorite movies, favorite book in the whole planet, is The Mists of Avalon. Because it's about the church coming in and grabbing. And you can see the nastiness of the priests even then. And these high priestess of Avalon trying to live in respect to the new religion, as they called it, where they could open and close portals. You'll see it if you watch the movie. We forgot how to do that. But there was a time when we could. And so I'd like spiritualists to stop telling me how to make $100 million. Tell me how I can bring fucking new earth into this place. I know I've been telling you how to do it. But I'd love to know if you and I are on the same page. Are you getting the same downloads I'm getting on how to get into new earth? Tell me what you're seeing. None of them will talk about it. They want to tell you how you can actually turn your blue eyes green. Is that what spirituality is all about? To amass, the fruits of our labor in the material world? Buddha could have stayed in the palace as Siddhartha and had sons and daughters and lived in luxury. Yeshua would have been celebrated had he just shut his mouth. In India, with the Brahmins and the Shastriyas. He didn't have to do anything. He could have gone with the flow. Gotten his fucking bag of money. Met some chick. But instead, he chose to actually do something for the planet, which took 2,000 years to come to us. And now we're finally disentangling the bullshit and seeing the jewels of his words through our own eyes. He said, you can outdo me. You will outdo me. And that's exactly what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to outdo him. We're supposed to outdo Mary of Magdalene. We're supposed to actually bring this planet to 5D. And that's it. But before we do, we have to say loud and clear, we do not consent to the way the 1% is ruling us to the ground. When SNAP benefits were cut and millions of people were affected in this country for it was almost 50 days, they got a taste of what people in Gaza had been living for years before 2023. Where food banks were so overwhelmed, they had to turn people away. Can you imagine turning people away, knowing they don't have anything in the fucking pantry? What happens to them happens to us. What happens to us happens to them. You never forget that. I don't know what else to say. I wish I could be entertaining today, but I don't think I can. So, any comments on the spiritual leaders who just want to play it safe? Any comments? Any opinions on that truth? So, anything at all? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you have to say about what's going on. Any comments? Thank you, Jesuit. The Knights Templars, there's this weird idea that they were rich because they wanted to be bankers. They weren't rich because they wanted to be bankers. They had wealth because they had brought back holy relics. And these holy relics had power. And they were like Saint Germain. Many of them were like Saint Germain. They understood the energy of the universe, and they were manifestors, and they could manifest wealth out of nothing. My son was doing the Om Shri Mreem Kleem Lakshmi Swaha in the shower. He really, we had just moved here, and he really wanted money. No one had been in this house for years, really. And suddenly one day, in the back of the house, he found $130 rolled up out of nowhere. Just there. You can imagine whatever you want. Was it dropped there? Was it always there? Had it been waiting for him to see it? We had moved in, back and forth, furniture and all that stuff. But suddenly, months later, after chanting and chanting the Lakshmi prayer, there was the money. The Knights Templars were alchemists. They were magicians, and they were feared. Because the King of France and the Roman Pope, they knew that their wealth wasn't from usury. They were alchemists. And they could manifest magic just by their consciousness. And they understood portals, and they understood sacred spaces to the point where they built sacred spaces. They sought sacred spaces. Ancient temples and ruins, little places that were famous in the ancient antiquities, and they built upon those places using sacred geometry to augment the power of those ley lines, if you will. So what I love about Freddie Silva, and I'm going to promote the shit out of him. I'm not a fan of Gaia. I'm just going to tell you, but he has an amazing series of books that you may want to look up if you want knowledge. He has it. He's what I call a spiritual anthropologist. And the other guy who kicks ass is Graham Hancock, who also talks about ancient spaces, ancient sites, and many of them were on being published. Well, I think Freddie Silva was self-publishing, I believe. I'm not sure, actually. I can't vouch for that. But I know that now very small press are publishing these guys. And we have some upcoming powerhouses who are self-publishing. And I've been really pushing for you guys to support self-published authors who are the new spiritualists. And I don't mean bimbos, either male or female. I mean real fucking kick-ass people who say things that are earth-shattering and who change your focus on what you thought this journey was all about into what it's going to have to be. Like, I'll give you an example. Spirituality, part of the journey, is to look back at what we were lied to about. Who, what was lied about and why? Why? And I keep going around in circles. I have a whole playlist on YouTube on Mary Magdalene Yeshua. Why did they lie about this divine, sacred, eternal consort? Meaning Mary Magdalene. Why did they lie about her? What was that about? Follow the money. What was that about? Why? And how did the root chakra of the masculine get twisted out of shape regarding women? Let's go back to Eve. Let's go beyond that. Let's go to Lilith. Why is that Isis and Horus on her lap look like the Madonna and Child? Why? Why are women right now thinking and hypothesizing that maybe the Madonna and Child is really Mary Magdalene and their child, Sarah, firstborn of the issue of Yeshua? Why? Why do we have to look at the back, all the way to the past? Because in the past is an ancient template of joy and justice that once thrived on this planet. We can't go back, meaning we can't bring that template back, but we can get the blueprint from that template in the ancient antiquities, beyond recorded history, right? And bring it as a blueprint and activate it with higher ascension light codes from the 21st century, age of Aquarius, Satya Yuga, and create a new earth. But first we have to look at the past, to realize that there was once a time when we lived like this, in joy, in comfort, in community, in joy, peace, all of it. And maybe we also need to know why it collapsed, and how it collapsed, and who were the culprits, so that we can lock that door, energetically speaking, so that this never happens again. For thousands of years, for hundreds of thousands of years, we will enjoy Satya Yuga on this planet. You see, that's why. That's why it's good to look back, so that we can understand how, when, who, and how we can stop it once we built this. Because if we don't learn how to stop it, we'll be no better than every revolution we've ever had, where a new toxic leader took a hold every fucking time. We don't want that. So that means the way we create the new earth isn't using a 3D template of revolution, fire with fire, but with high energy frequency, the way our forefathers, deep in the antiquities, that was lobotomized out of us. Right back there, when things were clear and beautiful, and we were actually free. Somehow something happened. And I know some of you can go into meditation and you'll know exactly what happened. You'll know exactly who, when, and why. You'll know. Because you can go back to the Anunnakis and this and that, but no, there was a time after the Anunnaki, after the fall of Atlantis, we had these incredible portals of high frequency realities that we enjoyed. I remember it. I need you to remember. I need you to remember that so you can bring it back. All right, my loves, thank you for being here. I'll upload this on YouTube. Thank you for all your time and so much love to you. So much love. We're going to make it happen, but I really need you to have more confidence.